Here's Lester Holt.
Good day, everyone. We're coming on the air as the president and the nation mark a solemn milestone. The death toll from COVID-19 has now passed 500,000. More than 500,000 Americans lost to the pandemic. President Biden is about to speak about that unfathomable loss and then lead a moment of silence. Here's
Each day, I receive a small card in my pocket that I carry with me in my schedule. It shows the number of Americans who have been infected by or died from COVID-19. Today, we mark a truly grim, heartbreaking milestone. 500,071 dead. That's more Americans who have died in 1 year in this pandemic than in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. That's more lives lost to this virus than any other nation on earth. But as we acknowledge the scale of this mass death in America, we remember each person and the life they lived. They're people we knew. They're people we feel like we knew. Read the obituaries and remembrances. The son who called his mom every night just to check in. The father's daughter who lit up his world. The best friend who was always there. The nurse and nurses, but the nurse who made her patients want to live. I was just in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Pfizer vaccine manufacturing facility. There I met a man when I walked in whose father-in-law was dying of the virus. He was sad. I asked if I could call his father-in-law. He said his father-in-law was too sick to speak. But then he said, but could I pray for him? Could I pray for him? We all know someone, fellow Americans who live lives of struggle, purpose, and of hope, who talked late into the night about their dreams, who wore the uniform born to serve, who loved, played, and always offered a hand. We often hear people described as ordinary Americans. There's no such thing. There's nothing ordinary about them. The people we lost were extraordinary. They spanned generations. Born in America, immigrated to America. But just like that, so many of them took their final breath alone in America. As a nation, we can't accept such a cruel fate. While we've been fighting this pandemic for so long, we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow. We have to resist viewing each life as a statistic or a blur or on the news. We must do so to honor the dead, but equally important, care for the living, those who left behind. For the loved ones left behind, I know all too well. I know what it's like to not be there when it happens. I know what it's like when you are there, holding their hands. There's a look in your eye and they slip away. That black hole in your chest, you feel like you're being sucked into it. The survivor's remorse, the anger, the questions of faith in your soul. For some of you, it's been a year, a month, a week, a day, even an hour. And I know that when you stare at that empty chair around the kitchen table, it brings it all back, no matter how long ago it happened, as if it just happened that moment you look at that empty chair. The birthdays, the anniversaries, the holidays without them. And the everyday things, the small things, the tiny things that you miss the most. That scent when you open the closet. That park you go by that you used to stroll in. That movie theater where you met. The morning coffee you shared together. the bend in his smile, the perfect pitch to her laugh. I received a letter from a daughter whose father died of COVID-19 on Easter Sunday last year. She and her children, his grandchildren, enter Lent this season, a season of reflection and renewal, with heavy hearts. Unable to properly mourn, she asked me in the letter, what was our loss among so many others? Well, that's what has been so cruel. So many of the rituals that help us cope, that help us honor those we loved, haven't been available to us. The final rites with family gathered around, the proper homegoing, showered with stories and love, tribal leaders passing out the final traditions of sacred cultures on sacred lands. As a nation, we cannot and we must not let this go on. That's why the day before my inauguration, at the COVID-19 memorial, at the reflecting pool on the National Mall, I said, to heal, we must remember. I know it's hard. I promise you, I know it's hard. I remember. But that's how you heal. You have to remember. And it's also important to do that as a nation. For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They're never truly gone. They'll always be part of your heart. I know this as well, and it seems unbelievable, but I promise you, the day will come when the memory of the loved one you lost will bring a smile to your lips before a tear to your eye. It will come, I promise you. My prayer for you, though, is that day will come sooner rather than later. And that's when you know you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And for me, the way through sorrow and grief is to find purpose. I don't know how many of you lost someone a while ago, wondering, is he or she proud of me now? Is this what they want me to do? I know, that's how I feel. And we can find purpose. Purpose worthy of the lives they lived and worthy of the country we love. So today, I ask all Americans to remember. Remember those we lost and those who left behind. But as we all remember, I also ask us to act, to remain vigilant, to stay socially distanced, to mask up, get vaccinated when it's your turn. We must end the politics and misinformation that's divided families, communities, in the country. And it's cost too many lives already. It's not Democrats and Republicans who are dying from the virus. It's our fellow Americans. It's our neighbors, our friends, our mothers, our fathers, our sons, our daughters, husbands, wives. We have to fight this together as one people, as the United States of America. That's the only way we're going to beat this virus, I promise you. The only way to spare more pain and more loss, the only way. These millstones no longer mark our national mourning. These milestones, I should say, no longer mark our national mourning. Let this not be a story of how far we fell, but of how far we climb back up. We can do this. For in this year of profound loss, we've seen profound courage from all of you on the front lines. I know the stress, the trauma, the grief you carry, but you give us hope. You keep us going. You remind us that we do take care of our own, that we leave nobody behind, and that while we've been humbled, we have never given up. We are America. We can and will do this. In just a few minutes, Jill and I, Kamala and Doug, will hold a moment of silence here in the White House, the people's house, your house. We ask you to join us, to remember so we can heal, to find purpose in the work ahead, to show that there is light in the darkness. This nation will smile again. This nation will know sunny days again. This nation will know joy again. And as we do, we'll remember each person we've lost, the lives they lived, the loved ones they left behind. We will get through this, I promise you. But my heart aches for you, those of you who are going through it right now. May God bless you all, particularly those who've lost someone. God bless you.
President Biden speaking at the White House, consoling the nation, honoring those we've lost, now over 500,000 in America to the COVID virus. The president also rallying Americans to essentially stay the course, continue the mask wearing, the social distancing, and once again noting that we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow. Now, the president has completed his remarks. In a few minutes, he will reappear at the South Portico of the White House, where, as he just said, he and the First Lady and Vice President Harris and her husband will lead a moment of silence. And you can see in this live picture right now, the candles have been lit in honor of the 500,000 we have lost. Let me go to Jeff Bennett right now, standing by for us at the White House. Jeff, it's not lost in anyone. We haven't seen these milestones marked in quite the same way, certainly not from the White House.
This is certainly a departure from President Biden's predecessor, Lester. President Biden is confronting this enormous loss directly and publicly. He has made an intentional effort to honor and recognize those lost to the pandemic, starting with his remarks, that revelation that he keeps in his suit pocket a card with a running tally of the number of American lives lost to this pandemic. The candles you see there around the South Portico, a White House aide tells me that this event in many ways is parallel to what we saw on the eve of Joe Biden's inauguration. You remember his first stop in Washington was to the Lincoln Memorial. And at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, it was bathed in golden light. And the president at the time said that this light in the darkness can serve as a reminder of all the lives that we lost. And now on this evening, more than 100,000 lives lost since then compared to now. You'll see an echo of that, as it was put to me by one White House official. And so the president's aides, his supporters, say that he has within him sort of a deep and abiding empathy born from his own life of personal loss and tragedy. And so when he speaks about the many ways, the many sort of specific and personal ways, as he did in his remarks about how the loss of 500,000 American lives, how that really shows up in specific American families, that he knows that pain well. And he talked about, out of this personal sorrow may come personal courage, as he sort of rallied the entire country to steel our spines and work our way through this pandemic, Lester.
Jeff, thank you. Let me bring in presidential historian John Meacham, who occasionally advises President Biden on historical matters and major speeches. I want to talk about the power of empathy. Many a president has called upon that reservoir of empathy during times of suffering or national tragedy. They can't make everything better overnight, but how powerful is it to say, I get it, I understand, I mourn too?
Franklin Roosevelt described the presidency as preeminently a place of moral leadership. And by moral, he meant custom. He meant neighborliness. He meant the human connections that define a community, define a republic, define a democracy. And I think what you saw there from President Biden, who is also my friend, and so I say this as a friend, is the power of empathy to lead a nation.
And John, we'll pause and listen. 500 candles there in the south portico of the White House. The president and First Lady, Vice President Harris, her husband, again, honoring the 500,000 that we have lost to this virus. Let me go back to John Meacham very quickly. John, if you want to finish your thought about the power of empathy.
Presidents are leaders of people, and we want to know that the humanity, the grace that we would want in a neighbor, in a friend, is also the humanity and grace that is in the person in whose hands all of our fates now rest. And I think the president showed that anew this evening.
John Meacham, thank you. I'll be back with a full wrap-up on NBC Nightly News. For now, I'm Lester Holt in New York. Good day, everyone.